we are literally beings of nature. We are made 100% from Mother Earth. And so any of the tiniest deviation from organic living on the earth will produce what we call sickness on some level, because it's a deviation from God's order. And so you look at our society today, we're drinking out of plastic. We could go on and on forever talking about all the deviations from natural law. We don't even walk on the earth, dude. Like, our sidewalks are like living symbols of the separation consciousness from our planet. We don't even want to touch the earth. We make artificial boundaries. You know, we're not grounding, we're not getting sunlight, we're not eating organic foods. And then we wonder why we're so damn sick. And then we get in environments with each other and you ask a question of, well, then how come I was sick, cough, cough, sniff, sniff. Alex sat next to me on a plane. He left the plane going cough, cough, sniff, sniff. Well, it's because the human biofield, how long does it stretch outside the body?
It depends. If you're a really strong, coherent field, then it'll stretch really far. But
like 20 feet at least, right?
Very far, right.
So all four of us, our biofields are communicating right now. And again, another thing we take totally for granted is how incomprehensibly intelligent our bodies are, and that our biofield is a field of data that's constantly communicating. This is the reason that women's menstrual cycles can sync up when they live together.
Sure.
So like my body, so all sickness comes from within. I've placed toxins into my body that are unnatural, harmful substances, chemicals, pesticides, you name it, heavy metals. My body can deal with it for a while because it's very intelligent and efficient. But there's a threshold that it reaches that it says, all right, all these toxins you keep loading into me are now interfering with my ability to function. So I've got to pause the system for a bit and get rid of these toxins. And we call that sickness, as if it's a problem or as if the body is broken. And it is actually a sign of perfect health functioning in the body, that your body makes you have no appetite, feel sleepy, all the things your body does. It's like, hey, dummy, can I just get you to stop putting toxins in me for 2 seconds so I can get rid of them? Yeah. And so if my body's in a detox process, which all sickness is a detox process.
It's a solution.
It's the solution to a problem, not a problem.
Right.
Alex's body his data is reading my data through our energy field. And if his body has similar toxins in it, my body tells his body, hey man, I just reached a problem with this type of heavy metal, pesticide, whatever. And if you have it in your body, you should probably detox it too. So his body does a scan. Oh yeah, I have that toxin too. And so then his body goes into a detox. We're herd animals, right? Our bodies communicate with each other. And so it looks like I just victimized Alec. He was perfectly healthy until I came along and I ruined it for him. So like, how fear-inducing and controllable is that narrative? That if they can say all sickness comes from outside the body, you're a victim to it. There's nothing you can do about it. You could be perfectly healthy, fit, you eat healthy, and you just walk down the Walmart aisle and someone sneezes on you and now you're sick with COVID. And that's why all the anger, the rage at each other, right? The division was from this one belief that I can make you sick because your health's not in your hands.
Right. You said you were going to do a lip, dude. That was a 360 win. You pretty much
I laid it up and I dunked it.
That was Kobe 360.
That was Vince Carter in the dunk contest.
Yeah,
That was one of my favorite topics, man.
Yeah.
That was really good. I've never heard it explained like that. That's very
great.
cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's hard to argue when you see it that way.
Well,
Right. And can I add
Yeah,
to
please.
that too? Because 100% exactly what you just said. But when it comes to symptoms, I want to emphasize again what he said with respect to it being the solution. I attribute all symptoms of literally every kind being the body doing exactly what it was designed to do to heal. And oftentimes your level of symptoms that you will experience is directly related to the level of toxicity, whether that's physical toxicity or metaphysical toxicity relating to emotions or non-native electromagnetic fields, et cetera, that is now requiring you to undo that conditioning, so to speak. So you're going to experience symptoms to come back to homeostasis. And then another interesting thing, what happens to trees in the fall? They shed their leaves, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like a conservation of energy, you could look at
Are
it
they
like
getting
for the
sick?
trees. Are they getting sick? No. So likewise, when we have, quote, flu season, we're entering a time when our bodies are going to be exposed to less sunlight. We're going to be sweating, thus detoxifying less. We're inside, immersed in a field of non-native electromagnetic fields, immersed in an environment with toxic glues in our home, living not in harmony with nature. And then because our bodies are not force detoxing through these daily mechanisms that we're oftentimes experiencing in the spring and summer, et cetera, then our bodies are going to have to force itself via throwing up, via vomiting, via diarrhea, via sneezing, via coughing, having a fever, et cetera, in order to detoxify. It's like a forced detoxification of the body because the body's not exposed to these harmonious things as frequently as they are in the summertime, and they're exposed to more disharmonious things coming into the winter months.
There's so much there. I think everybody just got double red pilled on that one. The way I think about it is, okay, there's also an internal governance where I would choose either consciously or unconsciously to get around certain people because like that system you described, it would know that it was time for me to get an upgrade, or it was time for me to purge or detoxify in some way. And then there's also just being intelligent, like, hey, if you're underslept, if you're not eating well, if you've been noticing that you feel super tired, don't get on an airplane and freaking travel for 13 hours. I notice when I don't sleep enough, that's when I get sick.
Right.
Yes.
And it's because there's already a part of me that's been screaming at me and barking at me like, hey, Josh, you might want to just chill. And then you add children and family life and business into that. And it's like, well, how do I do it all? That's the question that comes up for me a lot is, how do I do all of this without burning me out?
Yeah.
How do I go through life and navigate all my responsibilities and my dreams and goals without hurting myself? And every time I get sick, I always say something like this. You know what? I kind of feel like that was going to happen. I knew that I was going to get sick because I've been burning the fucking candle at three ends.
Right. And then isn't it so interesting that for the overwhelming majority of society, we then look at that experience and say, oh, it must have been a virus. I must have caught something from someone else. When just as you're sharing here, when you see it through a new lens, it's like, no, it makes total sense. I was pretty stressed out. I wasn't sleeping well. I got in a huge argument with my wife, and that's why I'm expressing these symptoms. It makes total sense. And then it shows you that it's all a function of something happening inside of here rather than something happening out there to you.
I wonder how you guys feel about this. So I notice that when I am not sleeping enough and when I'm just stressed and just allowing the kind of dragon to blow fire on me, I get to this place where I either make a conscious decision to just push work and push it out, even if there is responsibilities that I have to fulfill, that I want to fulfill. It's this intuitiveness. It's almost like I'm sharpening a sword about how I get to behave in life so that I'm just well. And there are some times where probably actually every time, not sometimes, that I get sick or that I get this upgrade or I go through this process and I'm really grateful to just chill.
Right.
Like I'm grateful to just like, even though it sucks being sick because you're like hacking shit and it's pretty fucking gnarly to get sick, but I just like having 3 days of rest. And so there is some truth in me that's coming aware about this right now. But I wonder from the other side, is it also a good idea, even if there is no such thing as getting sick, to know one's responsibility load or, said in biology, their allostatic load, if I'm already super stressed and if I'm in Wi-Fi and if I'm doing all these things, isn't it also smart to not be around people that are sick?
Well, it could be, right? Because I always take it back to a function of the self, right? And again, a strong, coherent field will overtake and entrain a weak, incoherent field. And what Eileen has shown with her work is that when you are experiencing like symptoms of, quote, illness, your field collapses in on itself to conserve energy.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't subscribe to the idea that you necessarily need to avoid being around other people when they're sick, because as long as you are doing what you need to do to maintain health, then you're not going to get sick. And if you, quote, get sick by being around other people who are sick, that means that needed to happen. That means you've reached a certain threshold of toxicity, just like Aaron said, that needs to come out. And again, I think a lot of people that have adopted this terrain paradigm sort of lend too much credence to the idea that, okay, it's not a virus, it's just this bioresonance thing. And now every time I get sick, it's because I was around someone else who was resonating with me. And it's like, no. Overwhelming majority of examples, it's shared exposure to non-native electromagnetic fields, shared emotional trauma, shared malnutrition, or shared toxicity, or a unique combination of all those three that leads 2 or more people in the same space to get sick. Now, again, I understand, I have 2 kids, that is not fitting to describe every single scenario. But if you look at it from this lens, again, going back to the countless experimental attempts to demonstrate that disease is spread via the fluids of a sick person have failed. So, okay, that's off the table now. So now we need to begin this really fun process of exploring the true nature of disease. And that's where we share ideas like bioresonance. That may be one of the things. And I always say that to people in my presentations, just like you brought up the menstrual cycle example. How do you feel someone lying to you? How do you feel that someone has good vibes? How can you feel someone talking about you, even if they're 7,000 miles away? What is that? And I think whatever that is something that directly relates to the manifestation of health or disease. And we have totally overlooked that because we're so myopically focused on this disproven idea that disease is spread via the fluids of a sick person.
So then is spontaneous remission just someone having an elevation that's accelerated in consciousness?
I would say so.
Definitely can
a
be.
very simple way to put it. Yeah.
Like look at the Heal documentary, right?
Yeah,
With
man.
Peter Crone or Kelly Noonan Gores. Like there's countless examples of people getting cancer. Even my brother, Scott Jackson, shout out to Scott, one of my mentors and friends. He's going through a cancer healing journey right now. And he's had fucking profound, I mean, he sat in that chair and cried. It was the most amazing healing for him. And so I think we just get caught in this construct of like, well, if I can control it and put a mask on and not be around anyone, then I'm safe. But we're never safe. No, safety is a fucking illusion.
There's another interesting phenomenon to that. It's similar to women in their menstrual cycles is the phenomenon of contagious yawning. Right? Like if I get really tired right now and I start yawning, you guys will start yawning. What the fuck is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think back to, again, I always like to think of like
Even you
way
saying
back
yawning makes me want to
I
yawn.
kind of want to yawn right now.
But if you look back, okay, going back to what I always say, like hunter-gatherer tribes, 50, 60 people, right? If you guys are trekking with all your shit from this piece of land to this piece of land over here, and nature sort of determines that it's time for you guys to stop and camp for the night and rest, one person's going to start yawning, and then everyone else is going to start yawning and get tired, and then you're like, all right, let's drop our shit here because we all need to rest.
Yeah.
It's like nature's way of entrainment, right? Where it takes, there's something or someone that knows the need is now to sleep and rest. But if everyone doesn't do it, it won't work because you'll be out of sync in your travels or whatever your endeavor is. But there's no germs being transmitted from me to you. If I start yawning, I didn't like infect you with tired genes or DNA or something, right? It's just like, it's an energetic thing.
Can I share one more example real quick? Because this example is incredible. I know you've interviewed Veda. So Veda Austin, for those who are unfamiliar, has basically taken Dr. Masaru Emoto's work with water and expanded upon it and made it accessible to lay men and women, meaning that what she does is she'll write, let's say, gratitude on a piece of paper in English or in Spanish, or play a song that represents gratitude, or show water a picture that represents gratitude. And I'm talking water in a small petri dish. She then takes that water and freezes it for roughly 5 minutes and 20 seconds, where it's the bottom layer has started to freeze, but there's still like a liquid layer on the top. So it's in the middle of the full freezing process, dumps the water off, and visible to the naked eye is water's own artistic expression of, or actual symbolic language of, whatever it was just exposed to the point that she's documented what she calls hydroglyphs, where repetitively, when she shows, let's say, love or fear or something like that, water will always reflect back the exact same symbol. And what's incredible about her work is that this is being repeated by other people who she teaches it to in workshops all around the world. So when we talk about empirical evidence, this is really like the definition of that. So if we take that, and again, this is a leap because we don't have any direct studies related to human beings on this, but just play with me for a second. Given that our bodies are 99% water by molecule and 2/3 water by weight, and per the work of Gerald Pollack and Gilbert Ling and Veda Austin and other people, structured water or coherent water is able to transmit and receive and restore and reflect back information at a much higher capacity than incoherent water. And our bodies are more than likely made up of coherent fourth phase water. So given that, is it that far of a stretch to say that our bodies, right, when they've reached a certain threshold of toxicity, just like Aaron is saying, also are able to communicate that via the water in my body to your body, especially when Veda did an experiment where she took one free-range egg, set it next to a caged egg, froze the albumin, and when she typically freezes the albumin of the free-range egg, it has this beautiful crystalline structure, right? In the caged egg, when she freezes the albumin, when it's by itself, it has no coherence to its structure. But by setting the free-range egg next to the caged egg, then cracking them open and freezing the albumin, what she found was the free-range egg still maintained its coherence and its structure. The caged egg now had more coherence in its structure just by being in proximity to the free range egg. She's repeated that same experiment where she takes one free range egg, surrounds it with 10. Same exact effect. The free range egg still has that coherence in its albumin when frozen. The other caged eggs, just by being in proximity to the one free range egg, now have more coherence in their structure. She set one egg to the side as a control, no coherence. She's now repeated it again, she just told me this, with 22 caged eggs and one free range egg. The free range egg, cracked open, frozen with the albumin, complete coherence in the structure, unimpacted by these caged eggs. The caged eggs, all of them, now had more coherence in their structure just by being in proximity to the free range egg. So think about that when we apply it to human beings. Even for those of us who are holistically aware, we are living in a way that I would say is not ideal for human beings to live. Like living in homes immersed in non-native electromagnetic fields and the glues in our homes and things like this. But I think most importantly, not living amongst like-minded community consistently too. And so when we're living this way, when we come into relationship with each other, when we're around each other for periods of time, the getting sick, we call that getting sick when we express symptoms, but it's really our body's just doing exactly what it was designed to do together to come back to that state of harmony again. And that's where you look at a guru in India, where people all will share that they have just sat next to a guru, and just by being in his presence, it helped heal them. That represents that free range egg. And that's why I always go back to the strong coherent field will overtake and entrain a weak and coherent field, but we're all just bringing each other back into resonance, back into homeostasis.
Well, it sounds like we need to get some chickens. I'm going to get chickens on my new land for sure, and they will be free range. Okay?
I love Veda's work. It's insane. I have to share just one of her experiments that's super mind-blowing. Maybe not as much as that because it's not as relevant to the conversation, but my favorite one of all, because she'll do words or pictures for the water, right? And then the water will sort of reflect that. The coolest one to me is she takes the water in the Petri dish, plays Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven at the water, puts it in the freezer for 5 minutes, takes it out, and the freaking ice makes a staircase.
No.
Not like, I don't know, I can kind of see a staircase in that, but like you show it to a 5-year-old and go, what's that? They go, stairs. Like that obvious, you know? I mean, this world is so beyond, as humans, we're so arrogant to even think we can understand the nature of reality like this, you know? It's just like, come on.
True.
That's why scientism is so repugnant to me, because of its arrogance and its closed-mindedness and its presupposition that it is the only way, it is the law, there's no changing it, there's no refuting it. It's like, that is the opposite of science.
Hey, if you loved that clip you just saw, watch the full video. That clip was just a taste, just a piece, the tip of the freaking iceberg of what you just witnessed.